I could go on for hours, but I won't. I want to also tell you about a story that took place in a Turkish prison in Turkey. It was shared with me by this man, Mehdi Zana. He's a survivor of Diyarbakir military prison. Diyarbakir happens to be my hometown. I grew up there myself. In late 70s, when I was in my teens, he wanted to become the mayor of the largest Kurdish city in the Middle East, in Turkey. He dared to speak the Kurdish language, and it was a revolutionary act because it was banned. The Kurdish language speaking Kurdish language could put you in jail. But the people voted for him, and he became the mayor in 1977. On September 12, 1980, there was a military coup in Turkey. He was arrested and horribly tortured in prison. You don't need to take my word for it. You could order this book on Amazon.com and read the stories for yourself. In 2 years that he was kept in that prison, and then he was sent to another prison, he witnessed the death of 58 Kurdish inmates from torture. But 8 months after he was tortured and kept in custody, he was told that he could see his loved ones if he wanted to. He could have visitors. Something about the Kurdish culture, the importance of mother. He said he wanted to see his mother too, just like that fictional story that I shared with you earlier, the Kurdish inmate wanting to see his mother. So he said he wanted to see his mother. The Turkish guards told him that he could not speak to his mother in Kurdish, that he had to speak to her in Turkish because there is no such a language called Kurdish in Turkey, even though it's spoken by 20 million people. Mehdi Zana knew that his mother didn't speak Turkish, and he didn't want to disrespect his mother, speak to her in a language that she didn't understand. And he desperately wanted to see his mother too. So he stood before the iron bars that separated him from his mother, with one Turkish guard to his right and another one to his left, with batons in their hands. And his mother came in, and he couldn't speak. And his mother screamed, "My God, they've beaten my son into muteness and deafness." If God had spoken on earth, he would have said the same thing. The last story that I want to share with you comes from a Kurdish girl. In 1988, her entire city was gassed. I mean, people literally dropped dead on their front porches or wherever they were. She was 8 years old. She lost her entire family. She was one of the so-called lucky survivors. And the world forgot about her, didn't really care about her. But then something horrible happened here on 9/11, when 19 people assaulted and insulted this country. 2 years later, US government decided to topple Saddam Hussein. in winter and early spring of 2003, a lot of American journalists managed to go to the Kurdish areas of Iraq, and they wanted to talk to the survivors of chemical weapons, people who had survived the chemical gases attacks. And they wanted to know how it would be in case Saddam had chemical weapons and attacked and used them against US troops. How would be the symptoms? How would people feel? And they told him about this Kurdish girl who at the time, 2003, was 23 years old and had survived the chemical attack. They pointed her to him and they said, you could go talk to her. He did. He noticed that she would talk for like a minute and then she would collect herself because her lungs had been damaged. So she would wait for another minute and then talk for a minute and then wait for a minute and then talk for a minute. And then towards the end of the interview, he felt sorry for her. He as a human being, he wanted to ask her, he asked her, if you had a wish, any wish, what would you wish in life? What would you want in life? She said to him, she wished she would marry and have kids. But because she survived chemical attacks, chemical gases, people don't want to marry people who have been exposed to chemical weapons. Because when they give birth to babies, they're defective. They have two arms, their DNA has changed, they have two heads, or they have, babies with deformities. So no one wants to touch me, no one wants me, no one wants to marry me. I shared the story with you partly because I think it kind of sums up the story of the Kurds as a whole. No one wants to be bothered about the Kurds. No one really wants to make space for them. No one really wants them. Turkey, where 52% of the Kurds live, where majority of the Kurds live, is a US ally, gets 82% of its weapons that it uses against the Kurds from the United States. I brought you a replica of an F-16 fighter plane. Turkey has about 340 of these. This plane destroyed the village that I grew up in. Today, it doesn't exist on the map. When I was growing up, it had 23 homes. It was a community. It had laughter. It had pain. It had weddings. It had funerals. Today, it's a dot with no life on the map. My purpose is not really to make you sad, is not to really make you withdraw from the world and its ugliness, is to make you a little bit angry so that you say, on my watch, I'm not going to let these things happen. So that perhaps you will write term papers on the Kurds and their stories. So that you will, tomorrow, when you become senators or members of the Congress or CEOs or presidents, you could play a role in making the countries that rely on your help listen to you.